This video provides a brief overview of map types. The most significant type of map that exists is the mental map. It is the most significant because it is one that everybody has, and despite its universality, it is also unique. Again, oftentimes we rely upon our memories to recall how different places are related to one another, what particular features or qualities of a place are important, as well as how to get from one location to another. Now, our mental maps are continuously evolving based upon our own personal experiences of navigating through space, as well as when we hear about things or read about things in the newspaper, on television, or even in a class. Therefore, learning more about the world will definitely help us to fill the gaps that may exist within our mental maps, which may or may not improve our ability to navigate and understand the world. The next kind of map that you need to be aware of are simply reference maps. And reference maps are used to describe the locations of different places on the surface of the Earth. On the left here we have an example of a USGS topographical map. The USGS, or the United States Geological Survey, provides and creates these topographic maps, which more or less describes the locations of all places across the United States at particular scales of analysis. So here is a detailed look of the Flagstaff area, I believe. And on the right, we have a reference map of Southeast Asia. And again, you can see how this is a historic map, and it would probably look very different from one that was created today using modern technology. That said, this map was probably used as a general reference for people to identify various locations and how they are related to one another. Complementing reference maps, which show us and describe particular locations, are what are called thematic maps. And thematic maps, as the name suggests, are about a particular theme. Sometimes maps can have more than one theme, but for the sake of argument, we'll say a thematic map typically refers to a single message. So on the left here, we have the different farming or agricultural types in sub-Saharan Africa. And on the right, we have what is called a cartogram, where the sizes of each country are scaled according to the number of war deaths. Okay, so there are quite a few war deaths in the continent of Africa, whereas war deaths are relatively small in terms of absolute numbers in North America. And the shape of each country, again, is rescaled according to the number of war deaths. So this is, again, a different way in which we can visualize or map the world. One thing that all maps share, including your mental map, is a map scale. Recall that the scale of your mental maps is somewhat inconsistent and largely based on your own experience and knowledge of your surroundings. However, when we talk about map scale on a reference map, it is typically represented in one of three ways. The first way we can represent map scale is simply as a description. For example, you might read 1 centimeter on the map represents 1 kilometer on the ground. So you could take out your ruler and measure the distance between two particular locations and determine the distances between those locations. Next, map scale can be expressed as a graphic. This is a detailed image of a USGS topographic map, and it represents scale as a bar. This topmost bar is divided into miles. The bars below that are feet, and then the bar below that is 1 kilometer. So again, you could get a piece of paper to kind of estimate how far the graphic represents on the map to get an idea of distances as portrayed on this particular topographic map. Perhaps the most accurate way to express scale on a map is as a representative fraction, or as two numbers and the ratio between them. The numerator, or the first number, is map distance, and the denominator, or second number, is real-world distance. One of the important things to note about expressing scale as a representative fraction is that it is unit neutral. That is, it doesn't matter what unit we use to actually determine or measure distance on this particular map. So for example, returning to the USGS topographic map, the scale is expressed as 1 to 24,000, which means that 1 unit on the map represents 24,000 units on the ground. So we could say this particular scale could be converted to 1 centimeter on the map represents 24,000 centimeters on the ground. And again, because it is unit neutral, we could actually convert this again to say 1 inch on the map is equivalent to 24,000 inches on the ground. Now, the tools of the modern geographer do not only include maps in hard copy and digital format, but also a range of other emerging and developed technologies, such as geographic information systems, which more or less use computers to create and update maps in a digital environment. Remote sensing technologies, such as aerial photography and satellite imagery, are very important in updating and creating new forms of spatial data. Mobile technology is important for navigational purposes, and all of these things combined help the geographer ask questions about where, how, and why.